All right. So what we do is obviously first thing we do is we go into where the crash occurred. Okay. So we say, okay, we know the crash occurred in the Gauteng area somewhere. We identify the road that it occurred on, and we can see, okay, there it is. It occurred in the Vaal area, and it occurred on that. But then we would say, okay, we want to know what police station it occurred under, right? So we would go to the police stations, and we would say, okay, we know it's within the Gauteng region, so we would turn on all the police stations, and straight away we can see that that blue area is where the road falls in. We click on that, and it tells us, okay, it's Vanderbijl Police Station. What's the relevance of that? Because we know because somebody's killed, we need to know which police station to go to and who answers to that road. Then we go down into exactly where the crash occurred, and we say, okay, this is an R road, so it's not a national route, but it is what we call a main feeder road. Where the crash happened to the next major intersection is 3.9 kilometers. So in other words, all he had to do was cover 3.9 kilometers to get to the next intersection, and from that big intersection prior to where the crash occurred, he'd covered about 2.5 kilometers. So all in all, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's about 6.5 kilometers from that intersection to the other side. So it's not a long stretch of road where he's gone along. Okay. So those are the kinds of things we look at, and then what we do is we start getting down right into the specifics of it. We go down into the road itself, and we start looking. We can even see on this photograph on Google Earth, this aerial photograph, this was taken on the second month, 2005. And you can see already the road markings are quite well worn away here. And we'll see that again a bit later. Even if you go down into street view onto the road, and in the street view, you can see that on the bottom of the screen, that street view image was taken on the 9th month, 2024. It is certainly, if there was, as the allegation is, 22 children in there, it's overloaded by seated positions. The bottom left of the video, you'll see a time reference. So at 21 seconds into the video footage is pretty much the first time that you could see the minibus taxi is already on the wrong side of the road. So both the minibus taxi as well as the truck can already see each other from 21 seconds into the video. What is also notable here is that we see a queue of cars. So in other words, the minibus taxi is on the wrong side of the road, but there's a whole lot of cars in front of him. It's not as if he's just attempting to overtake one car. There's a whole queue of cars. You're now at 26 seconds, 5 seconds later. So in other words, for 5 seconds there around, both these vehicles are traveling towards each other. Now just think of that as you sitting, either as the taxi driver or the truck driver. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. That's a long time. You've got enough time to see someone ahead of you, to perceive them, to slow down, to return to your side of the road, to stop, to drive off the road. You've got enough time to do everything. So we see, interestingly, the minibus taxi next to the crash taxi, if you watch the video footage, you will see that that driver is acutely aware that there's some sort of what we call impending danger, because he clearly moves to the left-hand side. So that's an interesting factor as well. So we then see they carry on continuing towards each other, and at around about that 26 seconds, right, you start seeing that the truck itself has identified the impending danger because he starts to move to his left-hand side. The minibus taxi that's crashed also starts to move to his right-hand side, the wrong side of the road. So the question is asked, why did he not go to the left-hand side? And then some people would say, oh, well, he couldn't because there's a vehicle there. We've already seen that other minibus taxi is clearly identified the danger, and he's moved to the left, so he's given that taxi space or to move in, to come back to this lane here. So there's no reason why the crash taxi could not have gone left. He could have. He had an escape route. So it's interesting to see that. And then again, this is just before crash, and you can see the actual crash has taken place right at the edge of the road, actually on the left-hand side, on the verge. And then you can see it's what we call an angular impact. So they haven't actually hit each other head-on. They've hit each other front left corner of the truck and left-hand side of the minibus taxi. Okay. So if we draw that diagrammatically, just to show you what's kind of occurred. So there in that diagram, you can see there's the taxi, and it's been hit by this truck at an angle. The truck will continue on its way and has gone right off the road into the bush because he was veering to the left-hand side. Remember, you're talking about a truck that weighs around about 56 tons here versus a minibus taxi with passengers. It's probably 2.5, maybe 3 tons. So there's a huge weight discrepancy here. That minibus taxi is obviously decimated and torn apart, and it's come to rest where it has. And so we see that kind of thing as you see in the diagram there. So we do that full analysis and we say, okay, who is the direct cause here? The direct cause is unequivocally the taxi. He's overtaking, and not only is he overtaking, and then when there's been an impending danger, he's made the wrong decision. He's gone to the right-hand side where very clearly he had the option and the space to go to the left-hand side. I don't know. Nobody ever knows. At the end of the day, the only person that's going to be able to answer the direct questions is the driver. Why did he not go left? Why did he go right? Why was he overtaking? We're never going to know this. Only the driver's going to know. We can speculate. I would suggest that he probably panicked. That's the most likely cause of the crash. So that's the synopsis. If you want to ask the question, could the truck driver possibly have avoided the crash? Well, that becomes an issue. Then we need to very carefully look at time over distance, braking, all that kind of thing. At face value, there is probably the probability that both vehicles could have avoided this crash had they reacted earlier. But the direct cause of the crash is unequivocally is the minibus taxi.